Killer property negotiation tactics. This was a talk by Andrew Roberts at a recent Baker Street Property Meet event, where he takes you through 15 of his top strategies for negotiating below market value property deals. That's all coming up. If you're new to this channel though, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon. We release new content each and every week. It's all about helping you be more successful in property. And if you haven't been to Baker Street Property Meet, then what are you waiting for? It's the largest networking event for property investors in the UK. We meet on the last Wednesday of every month. And for details of this month's meet, visit bakerstreetpropertymeet.com. But for now, enjoy Andrew's talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ranjan. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for that really warm welcome. And thank you, Ranjan, for that really fantastic introduction. I've now got quite a lot to live up to. Now, who here has met somebody who's been on a property training course and the first time they've met them, they vomited all over them with the knowledge that they've just learnt and all the jargon that they now know? Raise your hand and say yes, please. Yeah? Okay, well, that's really good because I'm not going to talk jargon and I'm not going to vomit on you either. So I'm a little bit of background for you to read about myself, but what I'd like to do, because we're talking about deals and negotiation, is I'd like to share one of my favourite deals. It was a deal that I purchased many years ago, and I still make profit from that deal today. It was a business that was sold for £5.6 million the day before Northern Rock went under. It came back to market 18 months later, and I bought that business that was being marketed for £1 million 4 days after it began marketing for £12,400. Is that a good deal? Okay, thank you for your attention. I help investors structure and negotiate deals. You might remember, if you were here last month, this gentleman, Andrew Bott, being on this stage, sharing his case study. Now, Andrew Bott came to me, and he'd been on a number of courses, but he couldn't negotiate this deal. And what I shared with him was my killer tactic number one. This business is about people, not property or strategy. I taught Andrew to focus on language. I gave him a series of questions. He went away and negotiated this deal with my remote support in less than 3 weeks, and he didn't put any money down on it. Is that a good deal? Yes. Yeah. Okay, so it's about people. The first thing we need to do is build trust with people. Put them at ease. You deal with people you like and care for and get on with. Be a politician sometimes. If people are saying to you, what do you mean? Or ask you a difficult question, come back with, what would you like to see happen in that scenario? You're throwing the ball back to them to describe what their desired outcome is from that scenario. I use and mirror the buyer's language. Now, I've got some of my team here, and they will tell you, I instruct them, listen, stalk them on YouTube, repeat their words, because it helps that person to trust you quicker. So you shortcut the circuit. Identify their problems, probe their pain, probe their fear, play to their greed. And again, don't ever propose a solution the very first time you meet them. So my killer tactic 2 is mirror the person's language. You will notice people say, I see what you say, I hear what you say, or I feel what you say. Mirror their language, whether they're a see, hear, or feel person. Now, this is an example of a property that me and my team did, and the buyer had a number of pains. They'd had a number of transactions fall over. What I knew was this was just a paperwork problem. So it was easy for us to deal with. What we did to expedite the transaction was help the person by using the term their new home in Scarborough to move them to their new home. And their house, which was their problem house that they'd been stuck with and had 3 abortive sales on because of paperwork, and that transaction moved forward much more swiftly as a result, and we got the deal agreed literally within days. Preparation. It's so key. I research. I cover all the scenarios that I'm likely to encounter. I consider the structure of the transaction for me and for the other party, the tax position of all parties, the location of the meeting, who is going to be there. We've only won the World Cup once, and it was when we were the home nation. So the home nation always has home advantage. Who's going to be at that meeting and why? Ask yourself why. Now you'll notice in the top corner there is a camera. If you want to take photos of the slides, do so. The camera indicates to do so. I will be going very fast through these. Don't forget role play. It's important to role play the scenario. So I'm going to start with a negative. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the one that got away. This was a 220-bed student block. I researched it, worked out the tax structure, because although it's in the UK, it was owned by an offshore trust. The bank didn't want to lend offshore. There were no accounts. I had to reverse engineer their business. After calculating their profit to less than £25 difference to the actual profit, they opened up and gave me full disclosure on their figures. Now, yes, I am a chartered accountant, so that was quite easy to do, but the important thing is I got full disclosure. Why did this one get away? Exchange rate arbitrage. The buyer was in Spain, and it was an investment fund. Where is the pound to the euro? They had better buying power than I did, and they were prepared to outbid me. Body language. It's a really key thing when negotiating with people. The first thing you generally do when you meet somebody for the first time is shake their hand. Now, don't please be Donald Trump. You're not trying to break their arm. And don't be a wet fish. A killer tactic that I find is read the body language of the person that you're dealing with. If they're closing their arms, shuffling their body away from you, make sure you're reading that. Break that pattern. Give them a pen and ask something to write down. Turn round and ask them to make a drink or get some drinks in. Break that pattern. The brain is a wonderful thing. We are introverts or extroverts, team players or solo players. And what we need to do is work out what the other person is. When you do that, you can learn to mirror and match for better results. Their pace, their tone. There are dozens and dozens. People come up to me and say, which personality profile do you use? I've read them all. I'm not saying I'm expert on them all, but I've read them all. They could be analytical. They could be stereotypical, because we must learn not to assume or presume and stereotype people. Now, the brain, the right side of the brain, is where we hear our emotional stuff. The left side is our rational. Strangely, it's our left ear that hears the emotion. So if we're negotiating with somebody, work out where to sit. If you want them in the emotional state, sit to their left. If you want them to feel they're in control, sit to their right. I'd like to say a massive thank you to my good friend who sat here at the front, René de Koning. He's an international body language coach. If you want to engage a little bit more, I'll let him explain to you at the break what these are. But pay attention to non-verbal communication. It accounts for about 70% of any negotiation. See what's not being spoken. WeFM, it's their favourite radio station. Tune into it for them. Don't forget, be a problem solver. Always state the benefits first. Never put the negatives when you're putting something to somebody. Put the benefits first. They hear the benefits more than anything else. Make other people the bad guy. And I like this analogy here. Dad, can I borrow the car? Can I have 50 quid? Can I stay out till 2 a.m. and can I bring the girlfriend home? You don't negotiate like that. It's, Dad, can I borrow the car? Of course, son. Dad, can I have £50? Okay, I suppose. Can I stay out till 2 a.m.? Go on then. Can I have the girlfriend to stay tonight? Okay. So that's how it works. Simplistically, this vendor here had a fear of retirement. He's 76 years old. I have helped him by creating plans to leave a legacy. I've helped him because he was leaving tax on the table and paying too much. That tactic there secured that deal, which will be a very significant block when it's redeveloped. This vendor here had another fear. He'd reached the end of his mortgage term. It was an interest-only mortgage. I focused on the benefit of solving that because he was in fear of being repossessed and fear of his credit rating. I gave him certainty around that transaction. Again, unrealistic terms when communicating. I don't make offers in writing. If you put an offer in writing, how do you know what was rejected when somebody tells you no? If you're going to put something in writing, put it as a tick box. That way they can choose and the terms are mutually exclusive to the price that you've put there. I always confirm, though, a deal that is agreed in writing. And pattern breakers are useful. If you feel somebody's closing down, change the situation. I feel or sense that you're not agreeing with me. Would you like to explain? It gives them a chance to back up and you to find out what the problem is. This is a development site. It's on 5 legal titles. Not only is it on 5 legal titles, but it's owned by 5 owners. They had unrealistic price and terms. What we've had to do, me and my team, is we've had to move them between logical and emotional states to transact this deal. Useful statements. How much money do you need now? If I paid you in cash, can I pay you in installments? We all try and negotiate the best deal. Who pays retail price? You only pay it if you get credit, generally. Again, I draw parallels to everyday things. Who's bought a car on finance? Raise your hand. Okay, so there's half of the room. If I was to sell you a car on finance, it would be £199 a month with a balloon payment at the end. You understand that? So draw a parallel and help the person you're negotiating with. A killer tactic that I've often used is, would you like the next mortgage payment to come out of my bank account or your bank account? It focuses the mind on the deal. And I used that term on this deal here. The vendor thought this was unmortgageable. Why did they think it was unmortgageable? It's residential over commercial. Residential over commercial unmortgageable, Ranjan?
Well, not if you know how.
Exactly. So I asked them, did they want the next bills to come out of my account or their account? That gave them certainty that the transaction was proceeding and took away their pain. That was a very fast way of doing that transaction. Agents, we all have to deal with them. I always talk in concept if I'm trying to put something together that's not a straightforward transaction. I never go into detail. I do things that support the agent and I get them on board. Agents are motivated by commission. Now, if you play to that, then you can win more deals. And remember the 80-20 rule, guys. We've got 2 of these, 2 of these. Okay? Now, something which I do with agents, if I'm putting together a rent-to-rent deal, and I'll show you some examples of those next, I'm happy for them to keep the maintenance. Why would I take the maintenance off them? They make commission on it, so they lose fees. Again, I remind them, I only work 9 till 5. I'm not going to phone them out of hours. Do they love that? Of course they do. Here's some examples of rent-to-rent deals that my team and I have put together this year. And Kate is smiling at the front. She's going, they're mine. And I did one this afternoon. High five. Well done, Kate. And The killer tactic that I like to use is, you can't charge consumers fees anymore. As I'm a business, I'm happy to pay an admin fee, and I want to do one deal a week this year. Now, at £500 a time, that's £26,000 commission I'm putting in your bank account. Do you have any deals for me? Do you think I get deals? I get deals. Now, tools you can use, I'm not going to run through all of these. These are tools that I use in my negotiation. This was a 6-bed that I did recently, and positioning is very important. I researched beforehand and I worked out the vendor, is it the center one? It's the laser. The vendor was going to sit at the top of the table here, and he was going to force us to sit here. Because I knew, I was cool with that. The second meeting, we removed the table and we sat more informally with the vendor opposite on the sofa. The third meeting, we sat side by side, laughing, and I'd solved his pains, which he had multiple of, because he'd had multiple failed sales and problems with the property, and I matched and mirrored his language. I gave him a clear, easy to understand solution. He loved that. This was a portfolio that Kate and I concluded last week. This is the landlord, who's very happy, as you can tell. Just remember, people believe 100% of what they say, but they only believe 5% of what you tell them. Silence is your most powerful tool in negotiation. Is that right? Now, I like to play the second smartest man in the room, don't I, Bill?
Always.
Always, yeah. And this was a case in point. This particular transaction, this one wasn't done this year. I'll own up, this one wasn't this year, but I love this one because it's one of my favourite properties. The vendor was being repossessed by his bank because he'd reached close to the end of the mortgage term, was retiring, and it was an interest-only mortgage, and he didn't have the principal to repay. I always take a colleague with me to negotiate, and it's great fun if you take a colleague. My colleague was probing with questions and found out that he was only getting paid 0.25% interest from the bank. I turned round and I said, "They're cheeky beggars. Here's my mortgage offer. They're charging me 5.5% plus fees. Shall we cut them out?" I think the answer came back yes in less than 30 seconds. Now, some favourite statements I use when I'm negotiating. How would that make you feel is one of the most powerful that I use. Again, more favourite statements that I use when negotiating. But what I would like to do is send you home with some action tonight, some homework for you to do. Look at the transactions that you have negotiated. Look at the methods that you have used to negotiate those deals and work out which has worked for you on the successful deals and which has failed for you on the failed deals, and why. Go and do your analysis. I'd like to thank you very much for your time tonight, and I'd like to say a massive thank you to Ranjan for inviting me. It's been a whistle-stop tour of negotiation. My team and I are happy to have a chat with you at the networking break and field any questions. I'm conscious that Aisha is up next. My contact details are there, and I would be glad to support or help any of you if you wish to deal with a problem with negotiating a deal. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah! Like that! Huh!
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, hit the bell icon. As soon as we upload, we'll let you know. And enjoy these. They're all dedicated to helping you be more successful in property. Happy investing!